What's up, everybody? Welcome back to RAD Recommendations. Garrett here from Born to Be Rad, and this is episode 6. Episode 6 of RAD Recommendations, and I have a special guest today. My guest today is Justin from Movie Watch Daily. I don't know if you guys have been following him, but he's got some cool stuff out there. You should see his quality. And he's kind of new to the scene like me, so this is perfect to kind of have him on here to talk about a movie that we both really love that we think needs to be talked about a little bit more. So, Justin, welcome to RAD Recommendations, and tell everybody out there a little bit about you.
What is up, man? First of all, thank you so much for having me, man. I dig your channel as well. That was a hell of an intro.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Yeah, man, I got a channel, Movie Watch Daily. I got kind of a wild channel, man. I talk about all kinds of stuff, but usually it goes back to 80s movies, nostalgia. I talk a lot about horror, but I branch off and kind of go all over the place. Physical media, you can see the collection I got behind me. I talk a lot about physical media, horror, retro toys, collectibles, all of that 80s goodness that we love, man.
I love it, man. So, yeah, we're in a very similar boat where we're both into horror movies. We're both into nostalgia, all things 80s. So I figured you'd be a great person to have on the show because it seems like we have a ton in common here. So
100%, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So we have a couple people already checking it out. Mr. Jason
what's
from
up,
Icon
guys?
Versus Icon says, "What's up, gentlemen? Good evening."
Good day, sir. Good evening, rather.
So for anybody checking it out, for the first time, what I like to do on these RAD recommendations is we go live and I chat with somebody from a similar, movie collecting community. And we talk about a movie and just kind of touch base with the chat and chit chat with you guys and just kind of bullshit about, a movie that we think is something that everybody should check out, regardless if you have or you haven't. Maybe it's this show, which will get you guys to check it out again. And we kind of just give our two cents on, this title. And the title that we're going to talk about today is...
I have mine ready too.
Yeah!
Yeah, finally got a Blu-ray release, huh?
That's right. So this is just one of the guys from 1985, and I guess you would say it is it's one of those teen comedies from the 80s that I feel is probably a lot better than it gets credit for, to be quite honest with you.
I absolutely agree. I actually just watched if you look on YouTube, I don't know if you've seen it, there's like a 30-year anniversary screening that the whole cast kind of got back together. And they were just talking about everything about this movie. And that's one of the things that came up is that even lumped in with so many 80s movies and sex comedies and all that stuff. This one tends to have a little bit more heart. It's made with quality and care, and the cinematography's good, the script is good. It's a great cast, so it is kind of a step above the rest compared to your general 80s comedy fare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. So, again, I think this is one of those teen comedies that doesn't really have to take it over the top, to kind of make it enjoyable. It's a good story. It's interesting. It's different. I really like this, and I want to kind of talk to you about, your first time checking this out. So this came out in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
I was 3 years old.
Okay, so again, we're not too far in age then, because in 1985 I was 4. So that we're pretty much the same age, so we totally understand.
Yeah.
I think I probably saw this movie in the early 90s, I think. And I can still remember the day I saw this.
Wow, you remember the day.
I do, and obviously the end of the movie is why this day, is embedded in my brain at maybe 10 years old, right? So
all of the kids our age remember that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So this is definitely, something that I haven't forgot at all.
Sure.
I was actually at my aunt's house, and she babysat us for years, and she used to have the channels that we never had at my house. So, the HBOs and Cinemax and Showtime and all that stuff. We never had that at my house as kids. We had, VHS and stuff like that and just basic cable. But she always had these other channels, and my brother and I remember used to go over there and scroll through those, I saw a lot of things, man. Like I think I saw
Uh-huh.
Hellraiser for the first time there.
Uh-huh.
Troll 2 I remember seeing there.
Oh yeah.
All these crazy things around that time, and this movie kind of popped up, and I remember what made me stick to it was that I saw William Zabka. That kind of I was like, wow, William Zabka, or Johnny is in this movie.
So what year was Karate Kid? Was that 84?
Yeah.
Okay,
oh God, I should know this. I'm pretty sure it's 84. Yes.
So it was Karate Kid was just before this.
Yeah, 84 it was.
Okay,
I wasn't
okay.
sure it was 83. Yep.
I wasn't sure which movie was first, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so it was first. So and you know what? He had a very similar kind of role in this movie. So
right.
That kind of drew me to it right away. I was like, oh, what's this? It's it's the kid from Karate Kid, and that's how I started watching this movie, and I just kind of fell in love with it from there.
Yeah.
How about you? Any?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same story. Pretty much this movie, along with actually some movies that you mentioned, and most of the movies that have gone on to be part of my like identity as far as like 80s and 90s movies. I saw it on HBO as well. I had cable, and I happened to pop on it. I don't remember the day that I saw it, but I remember finding it on HBO, and that scene that you're talking about definitely stuck in my mind. But I remember it just being because, like you said, it's not super over the top. Like a lot of comedies are so gnarly and vulgar, and this movie wasn't that. So it didn't seem as taboo when I was watching it. It's almost like there is some nudity and there is some like adult themes, but if you're a young enough age, it really doesn't seem too crazy. It doesn't seem too forbidden, with the exception of the flashing scene at the end. Right. It was just a funny movie that I related to.
Yeah, definitely. It had a lot of things, as a kid that kind of kept me drawn to it. So, I think of this, and there was actually that scene where the girl says he looks like Karate Kid, right? So there was a lot of Karate Kid references here.
Right.
And, doing a little bit of research before this, they actually wanted her to look like Ralph Macchio. Like that was like the goal there, because I guess the same studio is put out Karate Kid the year before.
Sony.
So yeah. So they wanted it to her to resemble him, and I think that's why they maybe made the haircut that way or whatever. But
she was so perfectly cast. Joyce Heisner was so perfectly cast in that role, because she was super feminine and hot at the beginning, especially the opening scene where they're just kind of ogling her body in the thing.
Yeah.
But when she transitioned to that character, she just embodied it in a way that wasn't over the top. It seemed pretty effortless for her. She was just perfectly cast in that role. She really was.
Yeah, I mean, she really was, and she, like you said, like it worked. Like I'm still boggled to this day. Like I can remember as a kid that end scene where she flashed, which we'll get into a little more later. Like as a kid, I could not believe how those were under there this whole time. It was like mind blowing to me that I knew it was a girl, but at the same time, I'm like, how did they hide that? Like,
well, I was listening in that commentary. You'll have to check it out, because, like I said, that 30th anniversary that they did a couple of years ago, they had the whole cast like a panel, like a Q&A panel, and they had her strapped down with ace bandages every day. They had her. They wrapped her in ace bandages because she said it was such a pain in the ass to shoot, because she just strapped down, and that would be. It was hard to hide those guys, man. Those were. They were out there, man.
They were out there for sure. Now, we have a couple people. So we got Joe Bob Tarheel says, "What's up?
What's up, Joe?
What's up?" So, and a couple other things with this movie, like you said, it really sets itself apart from those teen comedies that we're used to, because it kind of does almost go into, that same. I hate to say it is like Karate Kid, because as much as this is not for kids the way Karate Kid is. It had more of a feel, I think, of that kind of movie than if you were comparing this to Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Porky's or anything like that. Like, it just had more of a feel like those movies that I really loved growing up.
Yeah, well, it has just a lot of heart. It focuses on the characters, and I was thinking a lot about it because I didn't have a chance to rewatch it today, but I've seen it, countless times. And the interesting thing about that movie is, it doesn't treat any characters really dumb. Of course, some of them are slightly over the top with Bud and his character and stuff, but they don't really make a joke out of a lot of characters. And the movie is kind of just the central theme, really. It's just kind of being who you are, being true to yourself, and not trying to fake it and just doing. It sounds really cheesy, but just kind of doing the best you can. And it just does really good job with character. I think that's why it has lasted so much. Like with Porky's and those other movies, they're focused on the sex and the nudity and the overtop stuff, and the characters are sort of interchangeable. But each character in just one of the guys has their own identity and a little bit of depth, from the best friend, the hapless romantic that can't find a date. To Bud just being the horny 15-year-old. He was actually 15 years old when he filmed that movie, the actor.
That is crazy.
Which is nuts.
Curious about that because he seems older than 15 in my opinion.
Does. He does.
But you know what? You nailed it on the head, man, because I wrote down some stuff before we went on today and I was like, all-star cast, blah, blah. But you know what? Like, yeah, these people were in stuff, but these weren't really all-star, actors and actresses. But in my eyes, because they did such a great job, like, with the characters, to me, it was like an all-star cast. But when you really look at like what all these people went on to do, they stayed busy, but there's not a ton of stuff that you remember them by. But what's funny is, Bud always kind of reminded me of Corey Haim back then too. So it was like another reason that I was all into it too, because he kind of had that same kind of vibe, as far as his look and stuff like that. Yeah. And so another movie that I always think about with this one, and I've heard people always say that it's like the unsung sequel to this movie, is actually April Fool's Day, which is a horror movie because you've got a lot of the same characters in there. So Deborah, and then what's his name there?
Rick Morehouse is in it.
Rick Morehouse, yeah.
And he's playing like the cool. He's playing like the cool guy, like kind of the after version when he became cool.
So that's
he plays the videographer, right? He plays like the videographer and stuff. Yeah, what a great movie! Like 5 Shyamalan twists at the end that just keep on going and going.
But so it is funny that that kind of the same 2 actors and actresses from the movie like went off to be in that, which I thought was pretty cool. So you take.
I actually forgot the actress that played Deborah in there. I forgot she was in there. She was. You're right.
Yep. My buddy Tom, actually, he's a big fan of this movie as well, and. I remember I think Fright Rags put out like an April Fool's Day shirt, and he's like, "Dude, I'm getting it just because it's the closest thing to just one of the guys' shirts is I'm gonna get it." So.
That is interesting. Like it has a super cult status. I think it really started to grab its cult status, when it got its second life on HBO. But I think within recent years, especially hopefully with this Blu-ray release, it's starting to get like real cult status where those T-shirt companies will want to give us some merch. I would wear the hell out of just one of the guys' shirt.
Oh man, no doubt, for sure I would. Let me see. All right, so Jay from Icon versus Icon says, "As a kid seeing this one on a weird channel, I always got it confused with Willy Millie. I don't even know what Willy Millie is. Maybe you do, but I'm not sure."
I've never heard of that one. That's a movie? I've never heard of that one.
Jay, let me know. Is that a movie? I don't know it. Unless you're being funny and I'm missing the joke. I don't know. Let me know. Don't know it. But yeah, again, the cast is great. That's something that I think is really what kind of pulls this. I've been to a lot of conventions where unfortunately I've never met Joyce Heisner at all. Tony Hudson's been at a couple conventions that I was at. She played the friend Denise. And she's pretty active on social media too. So she's out there. She actually liked this post for us doing this show. So maybe she'll.
Oh, that's awesome. That's rad. That's rad.
So we will see. But she did great too. And again, I think there's just a lot of things too. There's just so many good like one-liners in this as well. That I think just
it's kind of nonstop. Yeah, and your boy Zabka has so many classic scenes, dude. Watch out for the prickers. He's such a dick, but you kind of like he plays that dick so well that he's like a lovable asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost like he took Johnny and even leveled it up here. Like I almost think that Greg Tolan is more of a bad boy than Johnny Lawrence was.
Yeah.
So I really love that, and I have it right here. He wears, dude. He's wearing weight belts to school. He's wearing fingerless.
Every scene he's like finding new ways to work out, lifting the nerds up and everything. Yeah. He's such a dick, man. He's
What did he
such a
say? He's like,
dick. But
he was doing upright rows. Yeah, he was doing it with the freshmen.
yeah, he's
He was doing the
lifting with
workout.
their wedgies and stuff. It's so funny, man.
He's telling
And
his
that's a,
friends like he's telling
go
his
ahead.
friends like he's telling his friends like, yeah, he's like, you got a superset, like just grab freshmen and do upright rows. He's like, you always got to keep the muscles pumping. You know, he's going to the he's shrugging at the lunchroom and stuff.
Oh God, it's so funny. And he does the lift, lifts everybody's lunch off the table.
The shoulder press.
Such an asshole.
It's so good, and you know, it definitely, I think, kind of sparked some movies, you know, in the future where, you know, you like the what's the one I was just reading on is just like She's All That, where you take somebody and you just, you know, like Joyce Heisner, all you did was put her in boys' clothes and give her a haircut, and everybody was super confused, and you know, she played off as a dude. So you know, I think other movies kind of spawned off that idea. So it's just funny that I feel like the cast I know really pushed for this Blu-ray, which, you know, they really band together to try to get this thing out, which is surprising that, you know, they haven't had more like stuff about this movie at all.
Yeah, it's really kind of a bummer. I think, what was the 30th anniversary? Was it last year?
So if it was 85, so this had 85? To have been, yeah.
So that might have been a few years ago. But luckily it is getting a cult status now. Another thing they were talking, you know, what's interesting is, have you heard about that movie Perfect with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Dude, that I did, and that, you know what? We were talking earlier before the show, and you talked, I think, about you heard about my channel through Pizzal, and I think the video was that I did a video on movies that need an upgrade, and I think
that one needs it.
Yeah, so he did like a video off of mine, and he credited me for the idea. And I was ready to do a part 2, and Perfect was going to be in my part 2 because that movie is so killer.
Well, you know what's interesting? It's also interesting because Sony produced Perfect, and it actually opened the same weekend that this movie did. And Sony had pumped just millions of dollars into promoting this movie with, you know, radio and TV spots and posters. And they had just traded hands as far as like studio heads and stuff, and they did not like this movie. They didn't want anything to do with it, so they didn't really give it a push, and it still kicked Perfect's ass at the box office. Like, this movie did really well at the box office. It did all right. I guess the director said it opened in like 1,500 theaters, which is a ton of theaters. And by today's standards, a movie that probably had a budget of $3 to $5 million, opening with 10 to 8 million for its opening weekend. I mean, that's a success. It's just interesting that Perfect, kind of the movie they really push for, it has a cult status, but I still don't think it has as much of a cult status as just one of the guys. But
no, that's really interesting little that you tidbit. Say that. Oh, definitely, because I was even looking on IMDb, and this thing only got like a 40% rating on IMDb. Which I kind of thought was a little bit shocked. Yeah,
that's bullshit.
Well, that's what I thought too. I was like, that seems kind of crazy because I feel like, you know, I don't really hear anybody ever say anything negative about this movie. But again, it's when it's brought up, which is, you know, few and far in between, I think. So
I think you kind of had to, it's one of those movies where you kind of have to grow up on it. You know, if you were to watch it now and somebody's never heard of it, it might not resonate as much with them, you know?
Right. Now I'm wondering how this would do, right? Like this concept, like I wonder how it would be, you know, seen now, if it would be something people would enjoy, or it wouldn't be something people want anything to do with.
I don't know. That's a tough one. These type of movies, especially where you're doing the gender roles and stuff. Right. I don't, you know, and I think a lot of the times that it's not the general audience's issues that they have with this movies. It's just some mentality of some people on like Twitter or the internet who maybe really aren't even that offended by it, but they just like want to say they are or something. Because I think audiences could appreciate it. But I don't know. It's interesting to think about what a movie like this, how people would respond to it. Nowadays. I don't know if you could make this movie now. I don't know if you could.
Yeah, I don't think you could, to be honest with you. I really don't. But I mean, that's why I think it kind of, you know, it kind of stands a test of time in a way, because I don't think it is going to be something that they would ever do again. But I do know that I was reading that Joyce Heisner's been pushing for a sequel for years.
Right.
You know, even now, I think like she would still be down for something. So, you know, who knows? But I think, again, like I was looking her up too, and for having such a big role like this at that time, like I'm surprised that we didn't see her in, a lot of other things,
I know.
after that. She did like a couple music videos, she was in shows and stuff like that, but no roles that I can remember, and being like, oh, that's Terry from, just one of the guys, like, unless you
Right.
recall something.
I really haven't seen her in much, and that's the case with a lot. Yeah, like you said, like a lot of the members of this cast and movies, they have like this. They kind of get defined. Actors, rather, they get defined by their roles, and it is kind of a bummer to not see. It's hard to see Bud, but I forget the actor's name that played.
Yeah, it's like
Bud, but it's hard to not
Billy James.
Jacoby. Okay, yeah, it's hard to not see see him as Bud. I mean, if you watch him in anything else, you just be waiting for him to say all balls itch. It's a fact or something. I mean, you know what I mean?
He was great in that movie. Like he really was.
Oh, he's
like
great.
An unsung hero of that movie. Every scene he's in, it was just perfect. Like, oh, what's up, Sean Cadillac Reed? Sean says, yo, thanks for checking it out, buddy. So what I thought another cool scene with him is when he answers the phone and he's like, he's talking to somebody. He's like, bite me, do this, do that. And he's like swearing at this person. And he hangs up the phone.
Talking to his mom.
Yeah. And Joyce Heisner looks at him like, who the heck was that? And he goes, Mom says hi.
Mom says hi. And that's the thing. And I was thinking about this movie is even outside of it just being kind of ironic and so of its time, like just watching movies made in that time, you look at the fashion, the clothes, the cars, and there's a certain nostalgia that kind of gives it like a cult quality. But this movie was actually funny. Like the jokes are funny, and it's not just relying on, like we were talking about earlier, just like a bunch of like gratuitous nudity or sex scenes. Like movies that I love are like that. But I don't know if you ever seen like Miracle Beach or Hard Bodies or those type of movies.
Miracle Beach, no. Hard Bodies, yes.
Oh, you got to see Miracle Beach, man.
I'll check it out for sure.
Dean Cameron.
Is it available?
Oh yeah, it's actually got a Blu-ray release. Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm on it.
Yeah, you got to check. Dean Cameron, that chainsaw from Summer School, gets a genie in a bottle. It's Amy Dolenz, and it's great, man. You got to check that out.
Oh man, you might have just given me another hidden gem. I love that though. I mean, that's why.
No, and guess who else is in it? The Mr. Miyagi, man. He's in the movie. Yeah.
God, where? How did I miss this?
I don't know, man. You got us HBO. That's where I saw it. HBO,
but that's good.
Man.
I'm glad we're doing this because again, I love to learn this kind of stuff and I'm sure you know how it is now. Like, look at all the stuff you got back there. When all of a sudden you see a movie, from back in the day that for somehow you buy, it's almost like it's a reward in a way because a part of you sometimes feels like what haven't I seen? What am I gonna watch that I'm gonna be like, I can't believe I haven't seen this in so long? And
right.
And that's why I kind of like doing this show because who knows out there? I mean, again, here's an interesting tidbit, and I'm sure everybody that's checking it out, we have like 10 people watching right now. So that they're going to probably be like, what? Dude, I have thousands of movies, thousands. And I own this box set. I've never seen this movie, and it is Indiana Jones. I have never seen any Indiana Jones.
You've never seen any of them?
No.
Oh,
think about
wow.
that. And I was born in the early.
That's pretty mind blowing.
Isn't that weird?
That's pretty much. But I don't. That's not totally crazy because if you're a kid and you look at that movie, the setting and like the old like Western feel, just the older cast. There's really not a lot. There's not like if watching it as a kid, there's not like kids your age to relate to in the movie. You're just looking at Harrison Ford and the older characters. So maybe you just didn't relate to it as much as a kid.
Chris V says what? So if that comment made more people, chime in the chat, hell yeah.
You gotta watch that, man. Temple of Doom is my favorite in the series.
It's just so funny. Like I don't know how that kind of passed me by in a way because I've seen, Star Wars and everything that I was supposed to see as a kid growing up, I've seen, but for some reason that one just never came through. Like I can remember one time I went to my neighbor's house and they were watching it, but that was about it. And I remember going to
Universal
Studios and going on the ride. And I mean, I knew exactly who he was and all that stuff. And my brother, who's only like 3 years younger than me, is the same way. Like he's never seen it either.
Yeah.
But it's got to a point now where it's like it's almost just so funny that I'm like, I'm just gonna keep it going at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's
Oh
almost at a
man,
point
you gotta. I'm almost jealous that you've never seen it though, because those movies. I mean, a lot of people have with a movie that has a trilogy, just like Back to the Future.
right.
People have their favorites, and people think some are better than others. Like I'm not a massive fan of Back to the Future Part 3, but I think that's the case with a lot of people. But the Indiana Jones movie, especially the first one, is just kind of one of those rare, like perfect movies.
Really?
It really is. Steven Spielberg's older stuff was just. It was
I
just
mean,
fantastic.
and that's another thing too. It's like I'm such a Spielberg guy. Like, I mean, everything that he did. Like another one, which I'm sure
Yeah.
people, if it's one that people kind of passed up, like that movie Duel. Like I absolutely like love.
I've never
that movie,
seen it.
Duel. Oh, good dude. So Duel is like I think maybe his first movie or one of his early movies, and
Mhm.
it's basically about a Mack truck. But picture this, like honestly, this is really what it is. It's like a Mack truck chase movie, but picture Jaws, but like with a truck.
Like a Maximum Overdrive kind of a deal.
Yeah, it is, but it's like this one truck, and it's basically like hunting down this guy for no reason. And there's a lot of scenes from it where you're like, wow, you've seen a lot of like that first scene at Jeepers Creepers, the first one where like that car's like dude, that was a complete rip of like this movie. You know what I mean? Like that was what this
really?
was. Yeah, it was very, very similar. So
I've heard of that movie, but I've never seen it.
Right? Like I'm talking about this movie Duel that no one knows, and I haven't even seen Indiana Jones.
I've never seen. There's lots of movies. I've never seen any of the Godfather movies. Like there's certain movies that I haven't seen. I got all three of them sitting back behind me, and I still haven't.
You know what though, dude? Guess what? You're not the only one. I haven't either. So
you haven't seen those either?
No. And I have like the Steelbook collection in the other room, and I haven't even opened it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have.
That's how it goes,
coming
man.
Through here. Andre Enrico says, "Good evening, all. Good evening, man. What's up?
What's going on, man?"
Okay, so Icon versus Icon says, "Duel could not be a more underrated movie. It's like Michael Myers if he was a car." I agree.
Holy shit! I'm sold.
Yeah, and you know what? There is a blue too, because I actually just upgraded recently, so there is a blue out there, and it's cheap too. It's probably like $8 on Amazon.
I need to snag that.
Sean Reed said, "Don't worry about Godfather 3. Just watch 1 and 2." Okay. So, and we're doing rad recommendation lists, and we're talking about these big movies that we haven't seen.
Oh man.
But yeah, so
got 'em.
That's right. You know what? It is because I'll even watch some of the YouTube people talk about movies, and sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I never saw this one," and I'm shocked that there's stuff out there that I'm like, "How did you never see that?" But what can I say? I haven't seen Indiana Jones.
I'll tell you, a lot of people when I bring up this movie or my other '80s classics, a lot of people have never seen or heard of this movie either.
Right.
It's got that cult status for sure.
Definitely, and I think that I think people that are checking this out, if you don't have it or haven't seen it, like it's definitely worth checking this out for sure. And we were just talking about like one-liners and all this other stuff. Man, it's got some good stuff. Like we were talking the other day, we were kind of just chit-chatting on social media about, different lines, but like the Zabka line at the end when he's all pissed off and that he got all the food dumped on him and everybody's kind of turning on him and he's ready to beat everybody up. And his girlfriend comes up to him, and this line just kills me, where she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna go do? Beat him up?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna go buy him an ice cream."
I'm gonna go buy him an ice cream.
It kills me.
Classic. He keeps calling him Tulip. He keeps calling him Tulip. God, he's just frustrated. He's overcompensating for something, man. And every scene ends with him like arm in arm with his bros walking off. Like, what are they holding arm in arm with his buddies like that? It's so funny, man.
It's so good, man. And like I can even bring up a line here, like as we're talking, like, isn't this nice? Like, a couple guys just talking about the movie, like it's the same idea when he was talking about in the bathroom or whatever, right?
Right. Trying to relate.
Yeah. But it's so funny.
Like when Terry starts bashing that soap dispenser, trying to act tough and then walking away, like just trying to be so hard. What makes it
funny is that she's doing what she thinks guys do, but like it's almost like awkward, right? Like
right, because it goes back to those themes of she's trying too hard, man.
Right.
Don't write about school lunches, man. For the Sun Tribune, you got to write about true life. You got to write what you know. You got to write about what you know.
Like imagine, like just picture this. Like imagine just being in like a bathroom at like a public place, and some dude in there with you, and you're washing your hands, and he looks over at you and says, "Hey, isn't this nice? Just a couple guys hanging out in the
A
bathroom."
couple guys hanging out in the men's room.
You'd want to get the hell out of there, you know what I mean?
Well, she goes to the locker room in that one scene. The guy looks over. You ever see anything like that? She goes. She's like, "Oh my God, what have I got myself into, man?" Oh, and that gym scene that leads right to that gym scene where she has to turn on the sprinklers. The guy's sitting there with his lizard and stuff. Oh, shirts, skins. You know that's kind of an underrated character in the movie too. The bowling gym coach was pretty damn hilarious in that movie. He's such a
he
dick.
was so good.
Yeah, he was so.
She kept trying to get out of class, and he's like, you know, like what are you, some kind of wimp? Like, because she like kept wanting to get out of gym. But another thing, like shirts and skins, like you think about that, and you're like, you know, as a kid, I can remember that. I don't know if I don't think it ever happened in gym, but I remember it like just playing with buddies. Like, I don't know, but you look at that now, and you're kind of like, man, that's so dated. Like they could never get away with that now.
Right. Some kids, like the pressure that would put on like a kid who's like really uncomfortable, like would just be mortified popping off his shirt. You know,
shirts and skins. Yeah, such an old school thing to say.
Oh,
but I thought it was a kind of a clever line though, because you know it makes so much sense for that, and I think it was kind of a clever line to have in that movie.
Yeah, it puts her in a position. It puts her in that position where she has to like figure it out. You know, the writing is pretty clever in that way. He goes, "You're hit with the 7-10 split. What do you do? Go to the nurse? Get out of here." So good.
Andre Enrico says, really fun movie. I watched it for the first time as a kid. All right, so you watched it as a kid too. Do you remember anything from that as a child? Because probably, you know, we'll talk about that end scene, you know, now. So, you know, it all led up to this big scene where she had to basically try to prove that she is not a boy. Mm-hmm. And the only way she could get people to believe her was she had to flash them.
Yeah.
And again, man, it's one of those things as a 10-year-old, you don't forget that. And honestly,
hell no, I never did.
It's probably the first pair I think I probably ever seen, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And they were beautiful. They were stunning.
Oh,
They're
my
perfect.
God.
They're perfect.
It really was. It really was. And it still blows my mind, like I said, that like that those were there that whole time.
And it's a PG-13 movie too, you know, which is crazy. I don't even know if you can get it. It'd definitely be rated R.
Dude, no way. I never realized that.
Yeah, it's a PG-13 movie, and yeah, and I'm in that interview. You'll have to check out that commentary. It's a lot of fun. Or the panel, the Q&A panel. She says the director, I forget her name. The director, what's the director? Lisa something. She was saying that Joyce had a no nudity clause in her contract. She wasn't going to do it. She said no. She's like, I don't need to do that. And so the director goes, okay, well, we'll just shoot that last. We'll table that for now, and we'll deal with it when it comes to it, which is a good move. Kind of get the rest of the scenes filmed. And when it came down to it, she kind of just explained to Joyce, like, this is the best way to shoot it. She's like, we're going to shoot it both ways. We'll shoot it with the nudity, and we'll shoot it without, which was smart to do on her move. And she was like, you know, if you don't like it, we'll take it out. We'll do it the other way. But at the end of the day, Joyce was like, you know what? It served the story. And it was the perfect cap to the end of the movie. It really was. You can't imagine that movie without that scene.
No, definitely not. And it's funny because Sean Reed just chimed in and said, yeah, it took about 10 takes for her to finally get the reveal down. Yeah, I can imagine. So what's interesting too is that I'm trying to think. So they show the scene from the back, which ideally they could have probably got away with just that. And
just the overhead shot in the back.
Yeah, of her with her shirt open. Like they could have just did that, and it would have been fine, right? Like it would have. Number one, you would have got the idea of what happened, and they could have ran with it from there. It also makes it real easy to put this thing on like cable, right, and not have to worry about much. That makes it easy because you just trim that second scene out.
Right.
But yeah, and then you know the line afterwards that he gives. I mean, it's money. Like I mean, it's
okay, everybody.
It's perfect.
Yes, tits.
yeah. So I mean, it really was, and it was kind of the perfect ending in that sense. And
you got to think also. Do you think the movie would have had that same impact? Will we still be talking about it today? If it didn't have that scene, you just never know. Even though the whole movie is fantastic as a whole. I really think that scene, I mean, that's just what you talk about when you talk about just one of the guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it would have definitely been a movie that I would have still said, like, oh, you know what? I love that movie. It was a great story. The cast was awesome. But like we both said, like, the fact that I can remember where I was at 10 years old the first time I saw this, I mean, there was a reason for it, and that really was the main reason that really just stood out to me, because it was just mind blowing to me as like, maybe as like a 10-year-old.
And you had to be glued on it unless you recorded it on the TV. If you're watching on HBO, you had to sit there and wait for it. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Right,
you can't
exactly.
Pause it and rewind it. Like
yeah, that was it.
When you grow up, when you grow a little bit older.
Looking at my brother, like, did that just happen? What just happened?
I know, like, holy shit. Yeah. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, anything else that you want to kind of chime in about it? We can kind of talk about whatever. Anybody in the chat that wants to bring up some stuff, and we can kind of chit chat with you guys about. Maybe we missed something. Maybe there's certain parts that we can kind of talk about. Again, it came out in 1985. If you haven't seen it, I recommend going to watch. If we throw some spoilers in there, I apologize now, but whatever. If we want to talk about it, it's worth it. So 100%. Sean Reed said that he loved this movie as well. I know he was a big fan of it. Trying to think really quick of any memorable parts. The funny thing was, like, that scene in the cave where they went, and like the girl was like in 6th grade or whatever, and he was
God,
with her.
Trying to mess. Yeah, that whole ending, third act is great.
Yeah, and you know what? It really, like, it's one of those movies too where I feel like I could really watch anytime and not be bored of it, and it kind of flies by. To be quite honest with you,
it was constantly playing. Yeah, it's a really short movie, about an hour and 20, hour and 30 maybe. Yeah, I just remember whenever it would play on HBO, if it started, no matter where you came into it, like, it's one of those movies you just kind of had to finish.
Definitely, it's definitely got that feel for sure.
Well, the three distinct acts are just great, because at the beginning you have her little problem and her deciding what she's going to do, and then getting with Bud, which when she comes to the house and tricks him into thinking it's one of her friends or whatever. I fooled my own brother. And then that whole classic scene with the balls don't itch scene. There's just so many good sequences.
Oh, that scene. And you know what's funny is that scene with him and her going through, like, the shift and all that stuff. And great scene. And you watch her, and I'm like, I almost guarantee her smirking and snickering was legit. Like, because he just did such a good job at that I think that she really just – are you
talking about in her performance? You could cut. Oh yeah, you could tell. When he was doing, yeah, she's about to break.
Yeah, and I think that was legit. Like, I don't think she was just doing it in character. I think, like, she really was laughing, because he just did it so smooth. It was incredible.
100%.
So we got a lot of things coming through. Let me read a couple here. Andre says, great soundtrack. Yeah, you know what? I think I have the vinyl of this, and I went to go look for it, and I couldn't find it, but I almost positive I have this thing somewhere for sure.
You have the vinyl soundtrack? Wow.
I think so. I could not find it, but part of me feels like I have that. It's so funny, man. Like, I'm sure you know how it is. Collector's mindsets are not good. Once you start doing something, it's just like you keep going. Like, I have so many vinyl soundtracks, dude. I listen to none. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, I should just sell all these waxwork albums, because I haven't even, like, opened any of them, and they're just all sitting there. So
I got a lot too.
And I don't play them.
I got the soundtrack for Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead in colored vinyl. What's going on here, man? But
did you actually listen to it or no?
I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't listened to it yet. But what's interesting that for this one, that's awesome that you have that release, because I was trying to find a lot of these tunes, and the only versions of I could play were like people who had kind of created the playlist. I didn't know you could actually buy it, but the soundtrack is great. There's some really fun tunes on this soundtrack.
That, you know what, it does for sure. Now, I think that I'm gonna try to kind of see if I can find it. I looked really quick before we jumped on, and I couldn't see it, but I have so much stuff in there, it could be buried. But I also do have the one sheet for this as well. The one sheet poster for this movie.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah,
it's rolled up. It's in my bedroom upstairs on a tube still.
Yeah,
it's an original. It's an original one sheet.
Yeah. I believe mine. I believe it's rolled as well in the other room. Like, so because it's that 27 by 41, I
Yeah,
really
it's that
only
odd
have
size.
yeah, so it's that old school one sheet size. So I only have like one frame that fits that size. It's one of those cool frames that you can kind of undo and then take it out. Oh, you got it right there?
You know what's so crazy? I actually just had it. This is one of my most recent purchases. I actually have the damn one sheet right here. That's crazy.
So,
I forgot I had that down here. Such a it's
great.
That's
like,
crazy.
Joyce Heisner, I've seen that when people give her that poster, she signs that towel right there on the thing, which is kind of a cool place to sign it because it's like it's kind of almost part of the image. So it's pretty cool.
Right. God, I forgot I had this. So
All right, I'm gonna go through
mentioned
some of these,
it. Yeah,
some
let's
of
do
the
it.
comments so people don't feel we're ignoring them here. So so yeah, Jason says this is a rare movie where if you spoil the ending, the big reveal, it actually only helps people want to watch the film.
That's true.
And I
That's
agree.
True.
And I agree.
That's true.
All right, so Sean Reed's quoting a quote from the movie. It says, "Don't get me wrong, it's not like I've never had sex before. I've had lots of sex. Just not now I want to try it with a partner."
Try it with a partner. So good.
And then he says, yeah, he goes, he's definitely
Poor bud.
but is definitely the backbone comedy. All right, Chris V has an interesting one. Chris V says, do you guys prefer this film or Soul Man? I personally like this one better, but I also think Soul Man is another one of those movies that's really good that is definitely different and could never happen now.
I've never seen it. And every time I watch the trailer, I'm baffled when I see that it was actually made.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it.
I'm not sure the status of that now. I have it on DVD. If it does have a Blu-ray, I do not own it, but I'm not sure if it does or not. It could. But yeah, Soul Man's another cool one from this time that you should definitely check out.
I need to see it.
It's one of those ones that it's just so far out there, especially in the age that we're in. It's almost mind-blowing for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then Staunch TV says it's so much better than Soul
Man. My man. Staunch TV, what's up, Staunch? That's my man right there.
Yeah, oh yeah, he says say hello.
He's got a fantastic channel. He did a documentary on, I don't know if you've ever seen Rock and Roll High School Forever with Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman, of course. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He's got a great channel. Check out Staunch's channel. Better than Soul Man, he says.
Oh, he said he says I told him my Billy Jacoby story.
Oh yeah. He did. A story that didn't make him seem like the nicest dude, which is kind of a bummer about him stiffing
really?
as a dude. Yeah, kind of a bummer. But yeah, I never want to meet well, I wouldn't say he's one of my idols, but never meet your idols. Might get bummed out.
Yeah, you know what? That is sad, man, because you know, when you go to these things and you want to meet these people and you're all excited and they do kind of have, you know, it's more of a put off. I think it does kind of affect certain things, you know, because
going back and watching their projects again.
Yeah, you know, I don't know about you, and I don't know how things are where you are, but the convention scene on the Northeast is pretty heavy. So I've been to a lot of those like conventions.
I've never been to a convention.
Oh, really? So do they have a lot in your area, or is it kind of
everyone? They're very few and far between. You'd have to travel to one of the coasts. We have a couple Kansas City horror conventions and stuff, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, so you know, you do kind of meet some actors and actresses that you know you can kind of tell why they're there, and you know they really don't care too much about the fans and stuff. But I mean, that's always a bummer when that kind of happens, especially when it's somebody that you not like looked up to, but you just love their work and certain things. So
yeah,
you know, so that kind of does suck. But I definitely recommend if you can get to some conventions, it's always a good time. I've met so many people there that there's a group of guys that we all meet up like in Jersey, and they're from all around the coast. And I talk to those guys every single day. I talk to them more than I talk to like my friends at home. Like it's crazy. Just the
convention crew.
people. Yeah, and it's so nuts. Like, we haven't seen each other in like 2 years because of everything going on. And then I had my son right before, the year before. So I probably haven't seen them in like 2 years. But man, I talk to those guys every single day. Every single
That's
day
the
of my
thing.
life.
That's the thing about. That's the thing about. We were talking about YouTube earlier, and just the community of fans of movies and pop culture. It's just such like a built-in like community. It really is awesome. It really
No,
is.
you're totally right. And that's one of the big reasons I started doing this show, where I'll try to get guests on here, because I almost want to kind of, build like a strong community of people that are like, helping each other out, can go on their shows, can, have similar interests and stuff like that, and kind of almost building like a big crew.
Yeah.
I thought would be a pretty cool idea, because it's all people I followed. And like I said before we went on live, is that I'm in the fitness industry, and there's a lot of that goes on there, where you're kind of really connected with like a lot of people like within that kind of industry. And I thought that would kind of be a cool idea to bring it to something like this genre, or this level of interest of like movies 100%. And stuff like that.
Absolutely, man.
So that was one of the big reasons. But let's see if anybody else has anything to say. Yeah. So Jason, you say you want to see that doc. Are you talking about the one that he talked about? You said it's on YouTube, the one with the cast going through the movie.
Are we talking about the Just One of the Guys thing?
I think so. Let's talk about that one anyways, because I haven't seen it. So
yeah, it's up. I forget what year it's from. I'm using my phone, so I can't look it up. But if you go to YouTube and just type in Just One of the Guys reunion, it's basically, it was like at a anniversary screening of the movie. So they had a brand new print from Sony. It was the print that eventually went to the Blu-ray. They screened the movie, and then afterwards they had a Q&A. So they had the best friend character. They had Joyce. They had Bud. They had one of the two little like nerds, space nerd guys. All the main players from the cast, and they all answer questions and just give a lot of insight. A lot of actually really cool behind the scenes stuff about them having like being on set and partying and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's on YouTube. You can just look it up. You don't have to pay for it or anything. It's a cool Q&A.
I'll check it out.
About 45 minutes long.
So I guess Jason was referring to the Staunch TV Rock and Roll Forever documentary.
Staunch TV. You go to his YouTube channel. He puts out so much content. It's crazy, but that's a really cool documentary. Have you seen that movie, Garrett? Rock and Roll High School Forever?
Yeah. So, I mean, the only reason I've seen it is because, I'm a big two Corys guy. So, that's in my collection for sure. I have that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cool doc. He talks to all the cast and all that stuff. It's a really cool doc. If you're a fan of the movie, you'll dig that.
Yeah. I'm going to check it out as soon as we're done. Actually, I'll go over and check this out for sure.
Yeah, it's rad.
So for closing, I remember I was reading some stuff earlier, and Jennifer Jason Leigh actually was up for this role of Terry, that she was beat out by Joyce Heisner at the last second, I guess, on getting this role. So you kind of look at it that way, and you kind of wonder what it would have been, right? If
that's crazy to think about, because she's a great actress too.
Right, she's very good. So you just kind of look at it, and you're like, it just seems very, you think about it, and you're like, oh man, it's hard to even think of anybody else in this role,
Right, it really is. That's really interesting to think. And at that point, I don't think Jennifer Jason Leigh was really too big. I guess she was. I don't know when. What's it called? Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out.
Fast Times, like, was that? That could have been even late 70s. Maybe?
Late 70s, maybe. Yeah.
I think so. But what's funny
she was still coming up.
Joyce Heisner actually said that she beat her out, but she was nervous because I guess they were up for a similar role prior to this that Jennifer Jason Leigh got. So I wonder if it was that role for
that's interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's wild. So
I thought that was a pretty cool little tidbit there.
Yeah, that's super crazy. I didn't know that.
Staunch TV says Jennifer actually would be a more convincing boy. Says
she got that low voice. She has kind of a lower voice, doesn't she? She's a great actress. What's crazy is I actually could see her playing that role.
Yeah,
I'm glad I went to Joyce just because I'm used to that. But I could kind of see her doing that.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean they needed that Ralph Macchio. They needed that Karate Kid line, so they needed
right, right.
That's probably what it is.
And she really cut her. It seemed like she really cut her hair for that. She must have like filmed the long-haired scenes earlier, and then cut her hair, and then filmed the later scenes or something.
Yep. So then we got Jennifer Jason Leigh. Didn't she cut her hair in that single white female? So she got
she did.
I guess so.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, dude, do you have anything else you want to share? You want to plug anything like that before we jump off of this thing?
Well, first of all, man, I just had a great time talking about the movie. This is one of my this is my all-time favorite 80s comedy. So to be on here, to be able to talk about it was absolutely awesome. I really appreciate having me. And if anybody is interested in, retro toys, collectibles, physical media, horror movies, all that type of stuff, I do movie recommendations and reviews and all kinds of stuff. So if you're into that, you can check out my channel, Movie Watch Daily. That's it, man.
Definitely check him out, man. He's pumping out stuff a lot, actually. I'm actually pretty impressed because I know how it is to my job is demanding. I'm trying to get at least one video a week, and sometimes that even becomes difficult. And he's pumping things out a lot, so I give you a lot of props, man, for getting as much out as you are. It's
man.
Crazy. So definitely check his stuff
out. You as well, man. I love your channel too.
Thank you. And if anybody, here's what I recommend: if anybody wants to see him ruin an expensive Gremlin toy, if you want to see him ruin an expensive Gremlins prop, go to his channel and
just
check it out.
Right out of the box. I ruined it the minute I get out of the box. That was my Gremlins, the Flasher Gremlin prop unboxing. God, that was one of my lower moments, Garrett.
I honestly, as much as that sucks, and I hope that you were able to somehow fix it, but
yeah.
It was actually really good because I really felt it. Like as soon as you realize that you're done, I could just see. I was like, oh no! Like you could see.
I even had to do the edit where I edit it where I kind of like slow mode it down and stuff. Like, oh my god! Right out of the box, man. God.
And then I think you said that you had to actually pause the video, get pissed, and then come back, right?
Yeah, I had to do a lap, man. I was like, I had to do a lap. I was like, I cannot believe I just did that.
And the problem is now it's on film, so you can't even like call and be like, "This came."
I know. Maybe I'll look. I know, right? Maybe I'll be able to look back and laugh. It's a really cool prop. Luckily, I can kind of rig it. But yeah, if you want to watch me ruin a $300 Gremlin prop, you can totally watch that video.
Yeah, sorry for plugging that part, but
it's a funny video. It made funny content because I built some edits around it, and it's actually pretty funny to watch. So.
And that's what made it good. It was so real, and as a collector, you felt his pain, man. Like, I've done things like that too. Not to that extent, but like when you get a box and you're excited, and all of a sudden you cut it open and realize like, oh shit, I just cut the shirt with this blade.
I know.
Like I've had stuff like that happen where you slice the box open and realize you just nicked a piece of whatever the hell was in there. So I totally.
It taught me to just slow down a little bit. Just slow down a little bit.
But what was funny too is you were so calm and cool, like when you were doing it, like you were talking as you were doing it, like it felt like
that's why it happened, because I'm sitting there talking to the camera, and then all of a sudden, oh, whoops.
Well, you know what though, it could have been the thing's finger, so put it that way, right?
That's right.
That would have been
100%.
But yeah, man. Hey, Justin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, man.
Rad recommendation episode 6. Awesome having you. Thank you, man. And
appreciate it.
If you ever have any other ideas about doing any kind of collabs, or hey, you want to talk about this movie? I don't think anybody likes it. Hit me up. We'll figure something out. And vice versa. So
100%. I look forward to talking to you again, man. This was a blast. Truly, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, man. Is anything you want to say as we sign off here to the peeps watching?
Thanks for everybody watching, for tossing down questions, for hanging out with us. It's been rad, man. Go watch this movie. Go watch Just One of the Guys.
Agree. Go watch Just One of the Guys. And hey, thank you guys all for checking this out. This is Garrett signing off, and like always, stay